Let's review manufactured homes. The overview of this section, we will start with the policy rules, we'll discuss some claim handling tips, we'll look at valuations, then we'll look at a special loss, the flood forms, and some example questions for you. Here are the rules for adjusting a mobile home loss. Manufactured homes in all special flood hazard areas must be anchored down. The only exception is if this mobile home has been continuously insured by the NFIP at the same location since 1982, you could get by without having this mobile home tied down. Very unlikely that there are any of these left. Please make sure that you take multiple photos of the tie downs. Let's describe what type of tie down or an anchor system upon inspection. Many times you'll see these flat airline ties that anchor the system into the ground with spikes and then are tied over the tongue or over the framing system. But we need clear photos that it is tied down. A travel trailer with wheels affixed is never covered. The photo you see here at the top right, this is a travel trailer. It still has a tongue on it. You could hook this up to a truck and pull away at any time. Now, a manufactured home with wheels is covered as long as it's tied down and the bulk of the weight of the risk does not rest on those wheels. So let's make sure if we see the wheels are still on a mobile home or a manufactured home that we get in and we see that the weight of this risk is still sitting on the piers and not the wheels themselves. Very unlikely that it would be resting on the wheels. A mobile home located inside a mobile home park will have the date of construction grandfathered to the date that that park was established. So if you have a home that was actually built or manufactured in 2010, however, it is located and set up inside a mobile home park with an established date of 1975, the date of construction of that manufactured home will be grandfathered to the 1975 date. Be aware that skirting installed below the first elevated floor might be restricted as long as we're post firm inside an SFHA or a restricted zone. So we only have one difference here when we're talking about replacement costs between a mobile home and a regular dwelling. To qualify for replacement cost, a mobile home must meet the following requirements. As with a single family, owner-occupied, principal residence assured to 80%, those are all matching from before. However, the only difference is the addition of this requirement that the mobile home or manufactured home be 16 feet wide and at least have a footprint of 600 square feet. Replacement cost in this instance represents the value of a new home of a like kind and quality, both delivered, it's set up, and installed. Now, to qualify for a special loss settlement, which we'll go over in just a moment, the above requirements are the same. However, we're less the 80% rule, and we'll go over that in just a few moments. Here's some claim handling tips for a manufactured home. When you're there at the inspection, try and locate the data plate within the risk. It can either be inside or outside. It'll detail the age, the model, and the manufacturer of this risk. It can also be found inside a kitchen cabinet inside or a utility closet. Sometimes you'll find this on the tongue outside. It might be on an I-beam underneath. Look towards the end of the mobile home to look for this data plate. It's very helpful when you're trying to determine the value of this mobile home through evaluation. So let's talk about those valuations. And the valuation is key. This is really where you start with a mobile home loss, especially if you're dealing with any sort of damage whatsoever. This is how you ensure a proper adjustment. The valuation, whether it be an Xactimate or an NADA valuation, has to be for the mobile home unit only, and then any extras that are installed at the factory. This is only items installed that come from the factory. Any sort of modification, any upgrade, or any addition that's built or added after the purchase, after it has left the factory, must be valued separately. We must explain those in detail in the narrative, and they must be clearly identified in the valuation itself. Make sure that we do not include any sort of patios, porches, decks, any sort of auxiliary structure on an Xactimate valuation. You won't be able to include this in an NADA. However, Xactimate does give you an option to include them. Make sure they are excluded and not included within the Xactimate mobile home valuation module. make sure you do not modify the actual cash value on an Xactimate valuation. This is an option at the end of the valuation. It is absolutely imperative that you do not modify the ACV at this time. If you have a question about the actual cash value, if you feel it should be modified, make sure you contact our office. Upon completion, a mobile home valuation must be printed separately. You have to merge this with the final report in the Report Management tab. So typically, you can merge all of the items you want to print in the Report Management tab within Xactimate and print them all at once, allowing Xactimate to stack them for you. You can do that with a regular valuation. However, with a mobile home, or, it should be noted, a commercial valuation, you must print those separately from within the valuation module itself, and you must combine them after the fact as a PDF. Any NFIP Direct or any torrent carrier does require an NADA valuation. So this is in lieu of an Xactimate valuation. You cannot perform or include an Xactimate valuation for any torrent company. Replacement cost of a like, kind, and quality unit includes connections, removal, transportation cost, and the cost to set up that mobile home on the existing foundation. That includes the tie downs. Make sure when you're producing this NADA valuation that you go in and take the extra step to exclude the washer and dryer, as they are included by default on the NADA program itself. NADA.com is the website that you can go. Make sure you choose the lesser of the three options to perform your valuation. This will give you an actual cash value of the mobile home. The NADA does not give you a replacement cost. It's very important that you do your homework on an actual replacement cost of a like, kind, and quality unit in that area. This might take an extra step of contacting agents. It might take an extra step of contacting a vendor that would sell these mobile home units, but you're going to look for the same year or the same like, kind, and quality mobile home that's a model that's similar to the one that you have for your loss. We must come up with a replacement cost outside of the NADA. Any sort of addition needs to be estimated in Xactimate. So if you have this NADA, again, we said it's only for the mobile home itself. So if we had an addition, if we had an aftermarket roof, many times you'll have additional rooms, you'll have a carport, you might have a garage, you might have any sort of these building items that are built on or added after the fact. Those have to be completely estimated inside Xactimate. And then you're going to take the values from that dummy estimate and you're going to include those in the second column of your mobile home worksheet. Your first column will have the replacement cost that you arrived at from research. It will have the depreciation, and then it will have the actual cash value amount that you derived from the NADA. That second column will add the totals from your dummy estimate, and then the third column will total the first two columns. That third column, the figures there for replacement cost and actual cash value, must match to the penny to your final report page. You'll need to enter those manually. Let's look at a quick NADA evaluation. Now, let's talk about a special loss as well. We know that this is an exception. This is not the rule. A special loss must qualify under the rules. It must be a single family. It must be a principal residence, 16 feet, 600, and owner occupied. The risk must, in our judgment, be economically feasible to repair. Must not be economically feasible to repair, excuse me. When you have all of these factors, the recommended payment will be the lesser of the three of the replacement cost. Remember, it includes the removal, the delivery, the setup. 1.5 times the actual cash value plus the delivery, the installation, or the building limit of liability. This is your policy limits. The lesser of the three of these would be amount that is settled on a special loss. So how do we determine if we've got a special loss? So we said if it's totally destroyed or damaged to such an extent that in our judgment it's not economically feasible to repair, at least to its pre-damage condition, that it might qualify for a special loss. A total loss is a property that is not repairable, i.e. destroyed, or the cost to repair that would exceed the property value. And there we're talking about the replacement cost. So after we produce a full estimate for the damages, if the total replacement cost loss, the RCVL, exceeds the replacement cost of a new like, kind, and quality unit, we might qualify for a special loss. If the home's washed away, it would be a special loss. If our estimate of repairs exceeds that, it might be a special loss. We will be presenting different figures on the FEMA final report. Here's a handy loss settlement guide that we've produced. So at the top, we just need to ask ourselves a few questions, and then we'll follow the flow chart to determine what settlement we have. Is the risk deemed a total loss or not feasibly economical to repair? If no, then we look at the principal residence. Is it owner-occupied, single family? Is it insured to value? If yes, we might have a replacement cost loss. If no, it's going to be ACV. So is it a total loss? Yes. Is it a principal residence? Is it owner-occupied? Is it single family? Yes. Is it 16 feet wide? Is it 600 square feet? Yes. Then we have determined that this would be a special loss settlement. We have this form available on our dashboard. As an adjuster, you would want to make sure and reference this. Ask yourself the simple yes and no questions to arrive at an answer on how this would be settled. Flood forms, ACV loss, replacement cost, or the variations of a special loss. We have some examples for you. Here's a proportional loss. So if a mobile home is underinsured and the risk actual cash value is heavily depreciated, it can be helpful to allow for a proportional loss. Now again, it must be single family, it must be a principal residence. If you think a proportional loss might benefit the insured, make sure you contact your examiner and we can help you work this proportional loss. A loss like this does take additional time. It does take some manipulation of the Xactimate program, and we can walk you through what you need to do. Here's some questions. So question 1, I have a manufactured home loss from NFIP Direct. Do I use Xactimate or NADA? Remember we said that any loss worked for the National Flood Insurance Program Direct needs to be handled as an NADA valuation. Question 2, is a manufactured home with wheels covered under the dwelling policy? A is no, B is yes as long as it's tied or anchored, C is yes as long as it's located in a non-special flood hazard area. Well, remember we said that a manufactured home can have wheels as long as it's tied down in a special flood hazard area. Let's look at question 3. Question 3, we have a manufactured home that is 18 feet wide on one side and 14 feet wide on the other end. Could this loss qualify as a special loss? It's very clear that the risk must be 16 feet wide, continual, or more to qualify. Question 4, this manufactured home is 18 feet wide. Its footprint is 800 square feet. It is a single family. It is owner occupied. It is a principal residence, and it is insured to 80%, so it is insured to value. This manufactured home completely washed away. How would this loss be settled? It looks like we've met all the requirements. We have the square footage, we have the width, we have single family, owner occupied, principal. They are insured to value. As it is a wash away, this would be handled as a special loss. It is not repairable, it's actually gone. It's got to be handled by a special loss in this instance. And remember, special loss says that they will receive the lesser of the limit of liability, the replacement cost, or 1.5 times the actual cash value. This refers us back to our valuation. We must have a rock solid valuation. So we're going to make sure that we're settling this correctly to the insured. Question 5. This manufactured home has a replacement cost of $100,000. It has an actual cash value of $35,000 and a deductible of $1,000. Now, let's stop here, and it's typical to see the depreciation of a mobile home in this manner. Replacement cost is $100,000. This could be a 10-year-old mobile home and is depreciated down to $35,000. That's a typical depreciation amount for a mobile home. It's not atypical. Now, policy limits here are carried at $85,000. This risk is a seasonal residence, so it's not a principal residence. It completely washes away during a flood. Now, how will this claim be settled? So it does look like we're insured to 80% here. We're carrying $85,000 when a replacement cost is $100,000. So we have met that requirement. However, we see that this is a seasonal residence. It's not a principal residence. Therefore, we have not met the requirements for replacement cost or for special loss. This would need to be settled at an actual cost value less deductible loss. The seasonal risk will not qualify. This is worth $35,000 actual cash value. You still have to take the $1,000 deductible. This insured would receive $34,000 as their settlement. Let's look at question 6. This loss will need to be settled as a special loss. Replacement cost is $100,000. 50% depreciation is applied, so the actual cash value is $50,000. The estimate was written and damages exceed $100,000 for repairs. So our adjuster wrote a complete estimate and it put the recommended repairs over $100,000. The building coverage is only $70,000. We've got a $1,000 deductible. What is the payable claim? We have 74, 99, 69, or 70,000. Our answer here is 70,000. 1.5 times the ACV of 50,000 would be 75,000. If we took the deductible, that would be 74,000. But remember, special loss, we have to look at the lesser of the three. So replacement cost is 100,000. 1.5 times the actual cash value, less deductible, is 74,000. The limit of liability is $70,000. So in this instance, the lesser of the three options is the policy limits, and $70,000 would be the amount settled to this insured. Question 7. This loss will be settled as a special loss as well. The replacement cost is $60,000. The actual cash value is $50,000. The estimate was written and damages exceed the $60,000 replacement cost for the repairs. Building coverage is $70,000 with a $1,000 deductible. What would be the payable claim? A, we have $60,000. B, we have $59,000. C, $69,000. And D, $70,000. So in this instance, we're going to understand if it could be settled as a special loss, it means it's insured to value, the square footage, the width requirements have been met, it is single family. However, replacement cost is the lesser of the three options. In this instance, $60,000 less the deductible of $1,000 would leave us with a $59,000 claim payable to the insured. Question 8. Mike and his family live in their manufactured home. This manufactured home is 20 feet wide and it's 1,000 square feet. So we've got the square footage and the width requirements checked. It's a single family risk. It's their principal residence. Building coverage is $55,000 with a $1,000 deductible. Complete replacement cost for this risk is $60,000 and a depreciated value is $40,000. The loss as written, the replacement cost value loss is $50,000. Our adjuster wrote an estimate for $50,000. With depreciation, the actual cash value loss is $35,000. What would be the payable claim here? $49,000 here. The reason it's $49,000 is the $50,000 coverage less the deductible. This risk is repairable. The figures tell us that the replacement cost loss is $50,000 when a new unit is $60,000. So we haven't exceeded the value of a new unit. Therefore, this would be repairable. We would write an estimate for $50,000. They did meet the requirement for replacement cost. You still have to take the deductible. Therefore, we have a $49,000 settlement to the insured. Question 9. Mike and his family lost their manufactured vacation home to title surge.